when we hold unforgiveness in our heart, we create a jail for ourselves. And
Hmm.
so forgiveness frees us and it frees the other person. But it's really about between us and God, and also us having a clearing in our heart so we can be able to be open for the next person. I talk about in one of the chapters of Finding Boaz, Finding Me, how a lot of times we try to carry a dead relationship
Mm.
with us. We're walking around with a dead weight will hold you down, and it stinks, right? If you carry an actual corpse around, it's funky, so who's gonna want to be around you? You smelling like a something dead. And so we have to shed that,
Yes, yes.
and we have to let it go. And I'm so thankful for God clearing that up, that resentment that I had. And now that I've gone through life and I'm married now going on 7 years, we have a child. I'm like, God did tell him to break up with me, and I had to say, Lord,
You
I'm sorry
can
for
look
calling him
back. Yes, yeah, I know that's right. Welcome to Storytime with Sirece.
Preview.
And now, let's all welcome your host, Sirece Thomas. Guys, welcome. We are back with another Story Time with Sirece. And I cannot begin to tell you how excited, even nervous I am because I have someone coming on here. Yes, she is my sister for over almost 20 years. We've been in each other's weddings. We have shared things with each other that no one else knows. But even still, I have had the opportunity and the blessing to have a front row seat to watch God move in her life, to see her go from level to level and from stage to stage. And now I sit back and I just feel like I am watching a superstar. You know why? Because she truly is. And it's just crazy because she is someone who, no matter how far and how much God does, she will reach back and she doesn't forget about us. She blesses my life time and time again. And I am so excited to have her. This is outside of my family. This is my first friend that I am bringing to the Storytime platform. And I am honored is just an understatement. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stand to your feet and give my friend, she is a speaker, a producer, a filmmaker, an actress, and the list goes on. Morgan Avery McCoy Harris.
Hi, everybody. Thank you.
Don't be humble, Morgan. I mean, that's who she is, though. Morgan is humble. She's got a huge heart. And this is Morgan, like many people, is multifaceted. She's got story after story after story. And when I say story, you know what we mean here on Storytime with Sirece. We mean testimony. Testimony after testimony from her, through her family, through the people in her lives, and how God is continuing to elevate her in her gifts and within her career and in her family. She is a mother
Yes,
to the
yes.
beautiful Mercy. And oh my goodness, I am so excited that I get to have a mother friend because let me tell you, it hits different.
It's different. Yep.
Oh, right. Exactly. So you're going to share a little bit. You guys may see behind her, she has Finding Boaz. Right now, it is a movie that Morgan McCoy herself, okay, has written, produced. I mean, this is straight from her thoughts, her gifts to your television screen. And right now, this is streaming where?
It's streaming on Peacock. It's streaming on Tubi. It's streaming on Amazon and a few other platforms as well. So you can check it out.
Which
Definitely. And you'll see a beautiful face, a beautiful cameo in there. You're going to see the lovely Sirece pop up on the screen as well.
And I'm like watching my little part. I'm like, of course. Morgan is the type where she will take you with her. And I remember when she asked me about it and presented it, I'm like, me? Sure, girl. I sent her like a 20-minute video. I'm like, use whatever you want. And to turn around and see this movie come to fruition, this is just the beginning for her. So make sure you guys check out Finding Boaz, especially ladies out there in 2024. I already know it is rough, okay? And dating, and we pray for the man, and even to you, men, we're looking for that woman, we're looking for that person, that desire that God has placed in our heart to connect with our other half, our better half. And Morgan is going to transparently share her story. We are celebrating and praising God for finding Boaz. But this movie has actually been birthed out of an actual story and testimony from our friend, our sister, Morgan McCoy. So we're going to jump right into it. And I just thank you so much again for being on this platform and for being transparent, because it's not easy always to kind of go back to those places, but it's wonderful to see the deliverance and where you are today.
Yes. Well, first of all, I want you to know I love you and I am so proud of you and an honored to be on Storytime with Sirece. This is amazing. And you're just offering a lot of really great information and encouragement to the world, which you've always done. And so just to bring it all the way back to that moment, and when we first met, we were at Hampton University and
HU.
HU Pirate. Yeah. But my goal or my hope was that while at Hampton, I would meet my husband, right? In my head, right? In my head, it was just like, of course, you're going to meet your spouse. You're going to get married right after college. And that wasn't my story. And, I was in grad school and I did meet someone and I was like, oh, it wasn't undergrad. It was grad. Okay, that's fine. Right. And
I'll
we
take
started,
it.
right. And we started dating. We did get engaged, and I thought it was the Lord. And, at the moment, in my experience, I didn't know that engagements ended. It was just like you get engaged and then you get married. That's what happens.
Same, same. Like it's happily ever after, right?
Right. It's,
And I remember this. Like I said, this is my HU sister. We met in college, and thank God, college was never the same for me. I really think she helped me even just stay on the course, stay the course. We helped each other on the path. And I remember the excitement. She
yeah.
came to me, she's engaged, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Morgan. And this is, I've seen her go through a few relationships. We both did before this. So, once you're sister tells you that she's found the one, we are all in it. And I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that excitement. So share with us what happens. When you say an engagement ends, what was that like for you?
It was devastating. I saw all the signs that the relationship was unraveling, but in my head, well, we're engaged. So it's just this is a test. This is just the enemy. We're gonna overcome it. But then I remember going to the Lord because I felt like God said he was my spouse. I felt like it was God. And so I was scared to like go against God, even though the treatment became poor and it just seemed like it wasn't right. I just didn't know what to do and I wanted to stay in the will of God. And I said, well, Lord, if this is supposed to end, he's going to have to end it because I don't want to be out of your will, out of alignment. What is it that you want? And so I prayed that prayer the night before. And then we prayed because he was a believer as well. And so we prayed, and the Lord showed me a vision in the prayer of me with someone. I didn't see his face, but I saw me and someone on a stage ministering to people. And I was just like, well, God, even if this ends, I know that marriage is for me.
Wow.
So after that prayer, like he's praying in a separate space, I'm praying in a separate place, we come together. And he said, God told me to break up with you. And I was like,
Wow.
really? Oh God,
And
it
you
was
know what's crazy
God.
about that? It's like you're in this prayer because your prayer, I'm listening to you and I'm like, this is bold. It's giving bold because you're like, you know what, God, if this is not for me, and he reveals to you with a husband on the ministering to people on the stage, and you're like, that statement was so powerful. I know that marriage is still for me, right?
Still for me.
Even
Yeah.
like and I know there's a lot of women, whether they're in relationships or marriage, there is that, God, I don't want to disappoint you. So I'm not
Yeah.
going to break the engagement, or I'm not going to get
Yeah.
divorced. So
Yeah.
I love that with that conviction, just going to the Lord in prayer. And it's like
Yeah.
you're there and you're like,
Yeah.
thank you, Lord. And not him coming out the room talking about, because I come out of prayer peaceful many times. And then I step out and I get tested.
Yes, that was the hardest test I had ever experienced
Girl.
in my little life. And all of the peace that I had, everything went out the window. I was crying. I called you and one of our other friends bawling. I had never cried so hard. I was just crying my little eyes out. My chest was hurting.
Girl.
all of that. But you prayed for me and you encouraged me. And I would love to say after that I was fine, but I wasn't. It took some time. And that's the thing. Like it took time to allow God to heal me, to teach me, to help me find myself. And when
Yep.
I look back, and I'm thankful that God knew that I wasn't ready. Not that other people was might have been ready to get married then. I was not ready. And there was so much more that he wanted to do in my life and places he wanted to take me and things that he wanted to show me in my singleness. But
Wow.
all I could see was marriage. This is my purpose, but I had purpose in my singleness. And
Mm.
so I'm so thankful for the time, that single time, because I was in your wedding. You were my first wedding. I was
Yes.
in your wedding. I was like, all right, I'm in it. I had this beautiful, you had us in these beautiful silver poofy dresses. They were gorgeous. I said, all right, awesome. 10 more weddings. I had 10 bridesmaid dresses. And I still have every one of them, every
Oh
last one of those
my
dresses.
gosh.
10 bridesmaids dresses later, I was like, all right, God, when, how, what, how is this gonna happen?
And that
When
is the struggle right there, right? Because he shows you a vision in the midst of that. Then you go through this brokenness, your broken heart. You know that
yeah,
there's purpose in your singleness, but I know many times, like myself, I get stuck on the vision. I'm like,
right.
okay, yes, it's
There.
been a week. Oh, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, where's my husband? It's been
Right.
2 weeks I've been here. Okay, show me the And you said that time is so vital, that when
Yeah,
God shows you something, and then I love how you could have really sat there and been like, and I would have been, but at some point you were like, oh, I wasn't ready for marriage. I'm not
yeah.
ready for marriage. So in many ways, God intervened and you
Yes, he,
dodged a bullet, you know?
yeah,
And I'm not
yeah,
saying that the person was a bullet. Let God deal with them, however, but you
yeah,
dodged a bullet of something that could have been more traumatic,
yeah,
chaotic, you know what I mean? For you, for everyone around you. And
yeah.
so sometimes we experience that loss and it's so hurtful, but we don't realize that he's actually sparing us for something that could have been so much worse. Because girl, imagine mercy coming then, huh?
Right. Would not, no.
And we have our women, we have sisters and brothers that still have ties to people because they got
Right.
pregnant, and God will work through that situation, but it really takes time for us to stop and say, you know what, I'm not okay, I'm gonna step away. You also could have kind of convinced him.
Mhm.
No, because I've seen that too. I've been there. I don't think God told you to break up with me. God,
Right.
he has an accent some days, so you might have misheard him. So that is wonderful, for you to eventually get into that process and that singleness and find your purpose in your singleness. And so what was that, once he deals with you, it's like you're like, yes, I'm healed. I feel wonderful. I've come a long way. And it's so funny. Once you get to a certain level, then he's like, okay, now I need you to work on forgiveness. And it's like, wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
What was that
Yeah.
like for you?
I had to, the Bible says if you want to be forgiven, you have to forgive, right? So I remember, we say the Lord's Prayer all the time, but at our old church, we would say the Lord's Prayer every time we would have a service on Sundays. And I kept getting quickened, like, you have to forgive. And it had to be, I have this written in my book. Sometimes people hurt us so bad that you have to choose to forgive every day.
Wow.
Forgiveness is not a feeling. It's not, oh, I feel like I've forgiven you. No, every day it's a choice. Just like love is a choice, forgiveness is a choice. And so every day when I woke up with anger or hurt or bitterness, I said, no, he's forgiven. He's forgiven. And so I had to command my mind and my body to fall in line with what
Wow.
the Spirit of God said. And so he's forgiven. And I had to do that every single day for a year until I woke up and I was like, I don't have it in my heart anymore. I don't have anger in my heart anymore. I don't have resentment in my heart anymore. And so it was a process. And for some people, it might be 10 years of you having to say he's forgiven or she's forgiven or they're forgiven. But it's when we hold unforgiveness in our heart, we create a jail for ourselves. And
Hmm.
so forgiveness frees us and it frees the other person. But it's really about between us and God, and also us having a clearing in our heart so we can be able to be open for the next person. I talk about in one of the chapters of Finding Boaz, Finding Me, how a lot of times we try to carry a dead relationship with us. we're walking around with a dead weight will hold you down and it stinks, right? If you carry an actual corpse around, it's funky, so
Mhm.
who's gonna want to be around you? You smelling like a something dead. And so we have to shed that.
Yes, yes.
So we have to let it go. And I'm so thankful for God clearing that up, that resentment that I had. And now, like now that I've gone through life and I'm married now, going on 7 years, we have a child. I'm like, God did tell him to break up with me, and I had to say, Lord,
You
I'm sorry
can
for
look
calling him
back.
God.
Yes. Yeah, I know that's right.
Knew what he had for me. And I'm thankful. Yeah, I'm even thankful for him being willing to say, well, this is because it would have been easier to have just stayed in it. But saying, I mean, I'm sure it was difficult to say, God told me to break up with you. But I'm glad he did. And so I'm thankful because it's not even about, it's always about God, who do you have for me and who do you have for them? And so even if there are any dating couples right now or even engaged couples, thinking about, am God, is he or she my best? And God, am I their best? Because just like God loved me, God loved him, and God had someone for him, and God had someone for me, and God knew what his perfect will was. And sometimes we try to make our will the God's perfect will, but that's not the case. So
Girl, oh my gosh, so much in that. I love that idea of, being intentional with that forgiveness every
yeah,
single day. And once again, time. Whether it takes a month, a year, 10 years, or for the rest of your life, some people have to wake up. And when that thought of that person or that situation comes, you have to say, I let it go. I give it to you, God. Some days probably harder than others.
yes, yes,
And I love that, sharing that because it's true. Sometimes we say we forgive and we move forward and we don't look back until it comes into our heart or we run into that person or we hear their name and we realize something is stirring up in us or we
yes,
see them and we treat them some type of way and we're like, you're confused, but you're like, oh, I guess that's just what forgiveness is. And
yes,
sometimes we actually mask what forgiveness is and we make it, we allow it to conform to our feelings. Like, well, that's forgiveness. Forgiveness is me seeing you and turning my head the other way. You lucky I'm not doing more. But that's
yes,
not God's forgiveness, right? Because imagine if God did that with us. He sees us and he passes us by. He never passes us by. So I thank you for saying that. And I love, love, love the courage that it takes to pray for someone, especially in a romantic, because we're talking about romantic and
yes.
romance, it jumbles up all the feelings.
All the feeling,
So
all the
like,
emotion.
yeah, like I ain't praying for you.
Right, right.
Like, but that's what God is calling us to do because it brings us up and out and higher. And it separates us to a place where he can say, now what I have for you is ready. So
Yeah.
through time, and how much time was that before you met the wonderful King Marco?
Gosh, it was 5, 6 years.
5, 6 years later, Morgan met her prince, her knight in shining armor. And how long after you guys got married did you have Mercy?
Oh, we had Mercy 5 years, and even that was a process. But that's another
Remember that.
story.
I
So
remember that. I
yeah,
remember the faithful, the timing is perfect. But just look at that. You're talking about almost 10 years later, you have
yeah,
a whole
yeah,
family coming from that place that could have been prevented if you got stuck in that
yeah,
place of unforgiveness, or if you got stuck saying, no, God, this is the person for me. So I'm going to keep contacting this person. I'm going to keep making sure they see me and I show up and I'm in their space, and it becomes toxic. It can become unhealthy. So
yeah,
many things that happen when we just decide not to fully let it go. We
yeah,
always keep that door open and things like that. So moving forward in that process, and here we are today. Tell us a
yeah.
little bit about what God did with that testimony.
So how the Lord healed me, God told me to write, and I said, I don't want to write. I want to eat ice cream and lay on my couch. That's what I
Oh,
want to do.
that's right. Right.
He said to write. So every day within that year, I would write. I would write. And by the end of the year, I had a book and I didn't even realize it.
Wow.
And Cerise was at my book signing. Cerise
Yes,
actually
I
emceed my
remember
book
that.
signing here.
Yes, I do. You know what's I remember I was wearing blue. I know, which is so funny. Yeah. I think your book signing had blue, had
Had
like,
blue. It
yeah,
did.
yes.
Yes, it
Mhm.
did. Yes. And so here I had this book that
Wow.
God had produced through as he was healing me. And so it's so important to be obedient to whatever that looks like. As you're going through your healing process, sometimes you can want to turn God off. Like you allowed me to get hurt, because I was mad. I was mad at the Lord. Like, you let me get hurt, and I don't like being hurt. But I'm so thankful that I obeyed him in the writing process, because writing is so cathartic, and it brought such healing to me, healing to my heart. And it also unleashed the writer within that I didn't know existed. And so, and the book then began to minister to people, and it opened up doors for me to go speak and other things. And so, this one heartbreak led to healing, which led to purpose, which led to the stages and places that I'm in now. Like, everything was connected. It all was connected. And so the book, as I was writing the book, I was also in film school at Regent University, a feature film class, and they wanted us to write a feature film. And I said, well, I'm writing about this, because it was
Oh,
like
that's right.
yeah, it was like six of us that were engaged, and all of us in grad school ended up being broken up with from our fiancés. And I said,
Wow.
what in the world? And so it wasn't a story about my actual experience, but just about, a broken
Salvation.
engagement. Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
wow.
but I was too hurt. I was too hurt to really fully like finish. So it
Mhm.
took me 10 years to actually finish the film. I had to be at a healed place, a whole place,
Wow.
and be able to produce it as a married woman. So I told my husband, we were in premarital counseling, I said, the Lord has given me a movie. I started when I was in grad school. I just had a fresh breakup, but I have a heart for singles, and even now I know we're getting married, but I still feel like I'm called to minister to single women, and I want to finish this movie. So literally 3 months into our marriage, we actually shot Finding Boaz.
Wow. Oh my goodness. And that movie came together. And I think it's so important because you had the right kind of husband to even allow you,
Yes,
okay, to
yes,
even go down there. And you even said something, you got to check her out on Facebook. She has this thing called Mercy Moments, which I'm waiting for that book. And
yes,
this is a lot of moments that she has with her daughter. Even when I'm talking to women, I'm always referring to my comparison with my child because that's how we are with our father. And I think about what you said through you moving forward, you were still a little mad at God. Why did you, what? Like, and I know that feeling all too well. That's a love relationship. And God allowed you to be mad. But
yes,
he still said to move forward. You can move forward and you didn't walk away from him. And that's the difference. It's okay to acknowledge your feelings to God, but don't walk away and allow
mm,
him to continue to move through that because as you move forward and you don't walk away, he brings you to that wholesome place where you can look back and say, God, I see it now. I get, and that's
yes,
how our children are. She will
yes,
be mad. I will, okay, it's time for us to put our clothes. No, I want to keep my pajamas on. But she doesn't understand that we'll go outside, you'll get sick. And then when you want to go outside, you can't because now you're sick and now your throat hurts. But
yes,
now she's mad at me while I'm taking off her pajamas and put it, but she's not, she hasn't walked away.
yes.
I'm
That's good.
mom. So there's a
Yeah,
there's an underlying trust that
yeah,
even though I'm mad, and that's what you just showed us, that even though we can be mad at God, we know we
yeah.
love him, we trust him, and we don't want no one else doing whatever he's doing in our lives. Because some of us, when we walk away, we find someone else to fix
Yep,
it. We find something else to fix it. So
yes,
you could be it's better to be with God and mad than walk away and say, I'm out. Because
right.
then it gets into some dangerous territory. So you went from writing, just simply writing instead of putting your feet up and eating ice cream, because I might have been the ice cream one. And you went up writing, and an entire year you have a book, and then you're in premarital with your husband, and you film Finding Boaz. And now today, where is Finding Boaz? Tell us a little bit about how it became on international streaming platforms.
Oh God. I mean, it was so the Lord. Finding Boys was like a two fish, five loaves of bread type of production. I did it because God said do it. It was my first feature film to direct. I went to film school and studied directing, producing, and writing, but I self-funded Finding Boys. We had some support of a couple of ministries, and I'm so thankful for them supporting and funding it. But a lot of it was me, because God said do it. And the Lord had, by that time I had one woman shows that I was touring, Evolution of a Black Girl. She's got issues, and my book sales. And so I said, well, God told me to do this. And so I'm going to do it. And we're grateful. Coco Brown agreed to be one of the stars in the film, and she was phenomenal. And I just said, okay, we're gonna make this happen and do it in Jesus' name. So we shot in like 2 weeks. It was like really guerrilla filmmaking. We were just getting everything done, and Anyway, after the film was done, there were just some things, because it was a tight budget, there were just some things that needed to be better to really get distributed. And so it just seemed like, what are we going to be able to do with the movie? Some years went by. We had some unforeseen obstacles with it, but God prevailed. And during the pandemic, actually,
Wow.
when no one, and again, how purpose and problems, right? So here we're in the pandemic, everybody is looking for work. And someone was gracious enough, like an Emmy nominee was gracious enough to watch the film and give me some really great constructive feedback about, you can get it distributed if you fix these things. And
Wow.
normally the things that he said that needed to be fixed would cost like $50,000, with industry rates. But because we were in the pandemic, there were people that were willing to like check it out, see how they can help. They wanted to work. And so God orchestrated an opportunity for us to get the film color corrected, get a professional score done, some phenomenal musicians who said, yeah, we want our music can be in your film. Like, just he put the pieces together.
Mm.
And then a Facebook, I said, God, I know this movie's going to minister to people. How can I get it out? I just want it to get out. I would love for it to be out. And then I saw a Facebook friend. So thankful for Facebook, a Facebook friend who I hadn't talked to in years. His movie was on Peacock. His movie was on all these different places. And I just messaged him. I hadn't talked to him in years. I was like, hey, do you have any suggestions? I have a movie. Would do you have any thoughts? He said, well, I'll
Wow.
take a look at it. And I'm thankful for that. His name was Brian Thompson. I'm thankful because a lot of people have their own connects and like, no,
That part.
it's your own,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
he said, I'll take a look at it. If I like it, because it's my reputation. If I like it, I'll share it with my distribution company. And that's exactly what he did. And they loved it. And then they sent us an email and, had a conversation with my attorney, and they were like, this is what we can do. And I'm so, so grateful. And then when we found out it was going to be on Peacock, and I was just like, oh my
That's
God, it
just crazy.
was, yeah, it was such a
Mind
blessing.
blowing. So all the way from broken to
Broken.
booked and busy, because
Yes,
that is Morgan McCoy. She is booked, she is busy, and she is still sharing the message of Christ around the world. And if there's anything that you just wanted to leave anyone listening to this, maybe someone that's right at that broken place right now, they had a dream, it was all coming together, and it just feels like the sheet was just pulled from under their feet. What would you
mhm.
say to them today?
Tomorrow will come.
Mm.
Sometimes we can get really caught up in the pain of now, but there will be a day. There will be a day where it won't hurt as bad. There will be a day that you will be in purpose. There will be a day where you will see the promise. So as long as you keep moving forward, tomorrow will come, and tomorrow will be better than today. So hold God's hand and keep moving forward.
Amen. Morgan, you are the best. Thank you so much for coming on Storytime with Sirece to share your just one of your incredible stories. Like I always tell you, this is just the beginning, and I am blessed to have a front row seat. Guys, you got to make sure you check out her website. Like I said, she is a woman of many, many hats. So if you need to get in contact with her for anything, if you just saw this and it sparked something, an idea, she has so many things. She travels around the world to different churches, different venues, and shares many different gifts. She's a one-woman show. She does it all, workshops, and like I said, everything. So make sure you guys check her out. I'm going to tag her website, her information, her book. Check the movie out, Finding Boaz, on Peacock, on Amazon. You guys can check it out. Sit back, put your feet up, get some ice cream. Okay.
Yeah,
If you're that person that needs a message, please check out the movie and the book. And the book, right? There we
yeah.
go. Where can we get your book?
The book is Finding Boaz, Finding Me, and it's on Amazon. You can
There
catch
we
it,
go.
or on my website. You can get it too. And a toolkit for churches that want to have conversation with singles. You can have a movie house at your church, and we have a 6-part video series and leadership manuals to help the singles ministry as well. So
Now that toolkit is it. I don't know if I've ever seen, and I'm sure maybe, but I have never seen a movie with a toolkit so that we can have a conversation. Okay, I may need to have you come to one of our
yeah,
WCWs. I'm gonna have to talk to some people. That is incredible. Like I said, a woman of many, many talents, many gifts, many hats. Make sure you guys get connected with the Morgan Avery McCoy. Harris, that is, Mrs. Harris. We love you so much, Morgan. We are grateful for you. I am grateful for you. And thank you so much. Give her a round of applause. Thanks so much for being on Storytime with Sirece. Morgan, keep sharing your stories.
Thank you. I love you.
I'll see you soon. I love you so much.
Storytelling creates empathy. And so if you really want to see change, if you really want to get information to someone, I think storytelling is the best way to give information and generate empathy. And so as a person that wants to see unification and racial reconciliation, I think storytelling is the way to make that happen. I decided to write the stories that I wanted to see told. That's why Evolution of a Black Girl was written. Evolution of a Black Girl from the slave house to the White House. So I played 12 women, 6 are real women and 6 are fictional characters. And we tell stories of Harriet Tubman, of Phyllis Wheatley, of Josephine Baker, of Billie Holiday, of Madam C.J. Walker, Maggie Walker, Michelle Obama, Kamala Harris, Rosa Parks, Coretta Scott King. We tell about these women and what they did and the times that they lived in. So it's a history lesson and entertainment and inspiration and empowerment session all wrapped up in one.
So the piercing I felt in my heart was me, Phil Enoch Lee.
Telling these stories are so important because they're not told. People don't know about these women who've done so much for our country. And so I'm so passionate about telling these stories to inspire people to know what has been done. And not only does it inspire them to appreciate the African Americans who did these contributions, I think it shifts perspectives of what we believe to be true about African American people.
It was a cold winter day and I was sitting in the back of the bus.
When I had the opportunity to be exposed to these women, it made me want to be better. And so as a Black girl, being able to inspire other Black girls to know that you can reach for the stars, you can pursue your dreams, you can change the world because there were other women that looked like you that did it. It inspires you to push and go and dream and be who you were called to be and not be what someone else tells you you should be.
At 16, I graduated from high school and I began to teach.
So when you hear Maggie Lena Walker's story of this woman who experienced so many tragedies in her life, but she changed Richmond, she changed the state, she changed the country. You know, the first African-American female president of a bank, and even when she was wheelchair bound, she integrated the Girl Scouts in the South. You know, all these things that she did. So when you hear stories like that, it dispenses out hope. So yes, I'm also a storyteller who is a hope distributor, and these stories offer you hope.